Welcome everybody to our Lift Up Women in Life Sciences live broadcast. We are back again for the month, and can you believe it's our 2-year anniversary? It was 2 years ago in September that we kick-started this Lift Up journey, and what a journey it's been. We've had over 50,000 global views now, 24 live broadcasts, and some phenomenal topics covered, from women in STEM, equity versus equality, women's superpowers in a workplace, return to work. It's been absolutely jam-packed. And today I'm very excited to be talking about the importance of personal branding and building your legacy. We know now more than ever, certainly since the COVID period, that your work is your net worth, and building those relationships is so important. And today I've got 3 fabulous key speakers all within the life sciences space that I can't wait to get them forward into the broadcast. But for those of you that have perhaps never joined this live broadcast before, Lift Up is all about championing and inspiring and connecting women within the industry, across from academia all the way through to C-suite. I'm Louise Williams. I'm the Managing Director here at Fraser Dove International, the Executive Search Life Science Talent Consultancy. I've been in staffing for about 20 years now, life sciences specifically for 10, hugely passionate about the industry that we're in. And it was about 2 years ago that us, as a group of female ambassadors within Fraser Dove, came together and thought, how could we give back to the industry and leverage off of all the wonderful relationships we've got with women that have kind of gone through the journey in life sciences and built phenomenal careers that could help champion and inspire others. So that's how the Lift Up was born. We've had some conferences in Europe. We've done 2 podcast sessions now, and we're keeping going with these broadcasts because we feel that they're so beneficial. And without any further ado, I'd love to bring in our first guest, and our first guest is 𝐲𝐬𝐿. Thank you so much for joining us today, 𝐲𝐬𝐿. Would you love to do an introduction to the audience?
Yes, hello. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks, Louise, for this opportunity. So I will start with my name. 𝐲𝐬𝐿 means action, demonstration, movement. So I'm always in action. I am an achiever, and I always look for the best possible solution. 𝐸𝐻 means resilient, iron, basically iron. I'm resilient like iron, right? You can put me in any situation, any challenging situation. I will always find a solution, and I will always look at it from the sunny side and take the learning out of it. And 𝐶𝐻𝑇urk means happy Turk. So I'm always smiling. I always bring sunshine to the environment where I am. So this is actually very much in line with my personal branding, right? So This is who I am. And on the professional side, I used to work in pharma for 22 years in regulatory affairs, managing international teams, have worked in various companies. And 4 years ago, I established my own company, Women on Stage, and we do similar things like lifting women up, advancing them in their career.
Yeah, and a phenomenal job you've been doing. I mean, you've got conferences and town halls. You've got all sorts going on, haven't you, across Europe? So it's been an amazing journey to watch as well. But yeah, thanks, 𝐲𝐬𝐿. It's a pleasure to have you here today. And I'd love to now bring in Sandrina. Lovely to have you. If you could do an introduction to the audience for us.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandrina 𝐴𝐬𝐿. Thanks so much for having me, Louise, and also congrats on the 2-year anniversary of Lift Up Women in Life Sciences. It's amazing. So I have been working in social media for 10 years now, but specifically in the life science sector for 7 years. I lead social media at 𝐲𝐢𝐥𝐥 Media Group, who is a portfolio of life science brands. And yeah, I've been specializing in SciComm social media. So that is kind of everything from Facebook, LinkedIn, personal branding, social media strategy. So I kind of do a bit of it all. And then about a year ago, I decided to start my own personal brand on LinkedIn. And that's brought me here today. So I'm excited to discuss all things personal branding.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And it's lovely to have you. And I think what we'll hopefully establish throughout this conversation is all three of you, including Dana, I'm about to bring in, have kind of all got your own roots up through the personal branding kind of journeys, unique journeys that you've all gone on. So I'm really excited to delve into that in a bit more depth. But thank you very much for the intro. And last but certainly not least, Dana, if you'd like to do your introduction.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much, Louise, for this opportunity to be here and to talk to you all and be in this amazing company. Dana Rollinger. I work in talent acquisition, focusing on executive hires in a large healthcare organization. I've been in recruitment and all things talent for over 10 years now, and I find it fascinating to work with incredible talent every day, both in-house and externally. So I'm really happy to be in this space. And life sciences, of course, is a very particular industry, as we know as well, with some amazing talent on the market. Personally, I'm also a mother of two, and having been born in north of Europe, right now living in Switzerland, lived also in UK and Indonesia and across of other places. So a global mindset also is what I think is bringing us together.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. And actually, that is the beauty of Lift Up, is that we found that the global reach, and actually it's something I didn't say right at the very beginning, but for those of you that are regulars on here, and I can see that Libette's actually already messaged, but please say hello in the comments when you're dialing in. Pop it in where it is you're dialing in from, what practice, what sector perhaps you're sitting in within life sciences. It's always a great community build, and great to hear from you. And yeah, we get people all over the place, from Africa to Europe to Singapore. So we try to keep this time 1600 BST as a bit of a point that hopefully we can try and get as many people engaged as possible. But Libette, happy second anniversary. Looking forward to the discussion. Lovely to see you here, Libette. I think you've been almost a regular for 2 years, which is amazing. In fact, I think one of the earlier key speakers. So lovely to have you in the conversation today. Thanks, Ian, for joining. We've got Anna as well. Some of these names you may know. I think we've got joined Anna as soon as I had the notification, here to support from his network. So yeah, look, keep the comments coming, and where it is you're dialing in from. It's always lovely to hear. Also, we'd just like to highlight that as we move throughout the broadcast, we want to try and get as interactive with you as possible. So if there's any questions that you've got, pop in a Q in the front of your question within the comments, and it just makes it a little bit easier for me to navigate throughout the comments. So we'll try and get through to your questions as best as possible. But I think the first one that we would like to kick off with is really understanding, I guess, a little bit more around your personal individual journeys and branding journeys before we dive into, your approaches and some maybe tips and techniques as to what's worked. Maybe give the audience a little bit of a feel for your individual journeys. So maybe 𝐲𝐬𝐿, I'll come to you with this question first.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. So there is a personal branding journey when I was working in the corporate life versus being an entrepreneur, right? So when I was in the corporate life for 22 years, of course, I started building my personal branding. But to be honest with you, I was kind of limited. So I could not really use LinkedIn, for example, to the extent that I wanted to use it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I was able to, because I was an employee, I was also sometimes the customer, especially when I worked in the consumer health area. So I could also use kind of an employee branding around that, use that perspective. But when I became self-employed with Women on Stage, I think 4 years ago, this was the time when I could really fully use everything that I had in my backpack and continue my journey and start building the brand of me personally as the founder and the CEO of Women on Stage, but also the brand around Women on Stage.
Yeah.
And this has happened basically with a lot of trials and learnings, right? I did try a lot of things. For example, okay, what are the topics that I want to share? Who am I? Who am I that, when I go to conferences, when I meet someone, when I meet people online, because I want to have an identical brand, so that people, when they see me and when they see me online versus offline, that there is the same person, right? There are no differences. So, and I was putting a lot of efforts into self-development and also getting to know myself, my strengths, and then focusing on stories that I had experienced, sharing my vulnerability with people that I was connected online and offline, to say, look, I might be the founder and the CEO of a company, but as I am a human being, I am a woman, I'm a mother, right?
Yeah.
And I have faced number of challenges in life and also in my career. And this is why I want to also help other women to shine on the stage of their career, based on from the learnings from what I have gone through. So I was not alone, and I want to share that those women that are facing challenges are not alone either. Right?
No, I absolutely love that. And I think that it's interesting that, that 4 years ago when you started up your own company, started up your own brand, that was the moment that you kind of took the leap on the personal branding front. Was there, out of curiosity, was there a specific platform that you used predominantly to launch yourself, or did you find yourself using a particular platform, or was it a case of you were networking, doing face-to-face conferences? Because sometimes when we think personal branding, we often just think about, LinkedIn, or we might just think about Instagram. But, were you kind of trying to really cover multiple platforms to get the outreach when you set up, or were you more channeled?
The main platform that I had been using and still using is LinkedIn, plus, the events that we are organizing, right?
Yeah.
So during the events, we facilitate networking opportunities, and I'm a connector. I see myself as a connector. It's not about me to connect with people, but connecting people with
other people,
right? And through that, you help people to grow, to develop, and of course, it comes back. At one point, it comes back. And so LinkedIn is a very powerful tool that I had been using, and I'm still using. I'm using it for many, many different things, like preparing events, sharing stories, connecting people, but also events, congresses. I mean, we all know that in Switzerland, in Basel, there are so many congresses ongoing. Attending conferences and connecting with people there, connecting people with other people. And then with that, you as a person and your brand becomes visible.
Yes, and it builds. No, lovely. Thank you for sharing that that story. And I'll come to you, Sandrina. What's your personal branding journey been?
Sure. So I'm going to quickly throw a question to the audience, because I'm really intrigued to see who has started a personal brand or who's interested in learning more. So if you've started a personal brand, say yes, I've started, or if you're interested, and then we could try and gauge our advice to you depending on where you are with that. But my personal brand, as I said earlier, it started a year ago on LinkedIn specifically. And as I work in social media, I am trialing multiple different things on different platforms professionally, like in a business sense all the time. So we're always testing things. And I was like, you know what, I'd like to explore LinkedIn a lot more. LinkedIn is a personal platform, and they are inherently biased to personal profiles versus pages, in my opinion. They may disagree with that, but you get a lot more gumption in the feed if you are a personal profile. So that's why you see people with bigger communities, bigger followings on LinkedIn as individuals, and you do a lot of the time with companies. There's always exceptions to the rule. But I was like, let's play around. I didn't have a goal in mind when I started, which is important for people to also be aware of. You don't always need to have a goal to start putting yourself out there and creating content. I just thought I had value to share in the social media space, in the science communication space. So I wanted to share some of those and start also having more conversations. I've always been somebody who likes talking naturally, but also like I love going to conferences, and I was like, that's just an extension of it on LinkedIn. So I was like, that's a really nice place for me to start having those conversations. And I really started by looking at what I call my content pillars. And even back then I had an idea of what I'd like to start talking about. And I guess that is my unique value proposition when we break it down, is I talk about social media, I talk about science communication. I often talk about events like this or in person that I'm attending or speaking at, how they've gone, the learnings that I've had from those. And then I also from time to time talk about, again, motherhood, the mum, the working life balance, all of that, that comes up from time to time. And that is kind of the content that I produce on LinkedIn. And that's kind of how I got started, I'd say, as a summary.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think touching upon those pillars pieces was a really important element to what you just said then. So you kind of broke it down a little bit into what you're passionate about, the story you want to be almost known as, and sharing those kind of insights. So you're saying it's important to not necessarily have an end goal set out in mind, but make sure what it is that you're sharing is something that's kind of from the heart, authentic. Yeah, and it means something to you. No, I really completely agree with that. Whilst you were talking, I mean, we've had 30 odd comments in.
Amazing. That's good.
I'm trying to, but we've got absolutely loads. In fact, I can't get them through them all. But thank you all for those that are commenting so far. We've got Switzerland, Mexico, the US. We've got everybody dialing in from lots of different places. So thank you for that. And Dana, you've gone through a real personal branding journey, haven't you, within your current employer as well? So would you like to sort of share how that's transpired and the success and what you're kind of building, I guess, how that's come about?
Yeah, no, it's been a journey, and I think there's still quite a bit ahead of me. But before I dive into that, I wanted to emphasize something that resonated, that Sandrine said. She said, I felt I had something to give, and I started my brand a year ago. You said, actually, I'm pretty sure you started it way before, but you just consciously really focused on building it a year ago. And that's also somebody said in the comments, consciously started. And I was like, actually, if we ask about anybody, what do you think is that person's brand? Everybody will have something to say, oh, they're super friendly or knowledgeable or a great connector, or really supportive of other people's careers. There's always something that identifies with your brand. And at any point in your career, we have something to offer to others. I'm a firm believer that we always have something to offer to others. And in my LinkedIn network recently, I saw there was a very young professional who was trying to break from academia into industry. And this person was sharing their journey, their learnings, their observations, the success stories they've heard, and what the struggles they were having. And I thought, if I was in a similar situation, I would so love to have that content and to exchange and to have that support type of thing. And so no matter how early on you are or how late on, and we see more, of course, of these experienced professionals going into sharing advice and their experiences and expertise on LinkedIn, but also many other platforms. That's by far not the only one out there. Which of course is easier, but is not exclusive pre-requirement, right? But back to my brand, I consciously started my brand probably over 2 years ago, and it was ignited by a leadership development program from Healthcare Businesswomen's kind of started it thinking, oh, that would be great, actually, you know, me building brand, expanding my network, getting to know the talent and the candidates that I'm after, because I'm a recruiter. This is what I do. I'm after top talent in the industry. Wouldn't that be nice to expand my network in life sciences and kind of show that I know my job. I am in a good position to give advice on career development and progression, and that way, kind of, you know, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
And it escalated beyond that, because I realized that actually there's more to me than just career advice. Sure, I'm really happy to give career advice on LinkedIn, because I know that although there's a lot of it, not all of it is really valuable. Let's call it that way. So I thought, you know, I have some credibility, and so I could give back to the community by giving some insights into what a recruiter does, how we do it, why we do it, what do we pay attention to, and things like that. But also I realized that there's a lot more to me. I have my purpose. Why do I do things as a person? I have my expertise, but I also have my values that are not necessarily only about life sciences. I have my personality. I have a rather quirky personality, not something that fits into a standard corporate world. And I've heard it quite a lot, that how can you really be so openly yourself? And I'm like, but I am my own person. I am not a large corporate. I have my experiences. I have my values, which luckily are very much aligned with those of my employer. But not only, there's a lot more to it. So
it's interesting.
So these are the 4 pillars that actually I built my brand around. And I continuously do so. I kind of do this healthy mix. And Louise, you mentioned it before, between personal and professional, and advice and network. And I kind of consciously try to have a healthy mix of it all, to make it interesting, to make it personal, because let's face it, you know, our work oftentimes is a very big part of our lives. So that's how I kind of structured my brand. And I mentioned it before as well. My brand is not my LinkedIn profile. My brand is me. And Aleem, you said that who I am on my posts and on my content is also who I am in real life. And I think it's really important for one to be authentic, both online, offline, at work, off work. You can't escape it. It's all linked.
Absolutely. And I think well done on the incredible journey so far as well that you've been on. I mean, I'm quite small fry really when I when I look at some of you and in regards to your personal brands, but I'm kind of similar around the sense. I mean, on LinkedIn, I've been established on LinkedIn for over 10 years, but I probably wasn't more conscious of my personal brand until Lift Up started. And then it was a case of, like you said, your purpose, your why, what are you here to do? What story are you trying to talk about? And that kind of blend around the content, that served me quite well, about a 30-30-30 split approximately between professional, personal, and maybe just some business insights, intelligence, or your opinions on those insights and intelligence. Because I think the more that people then get to learn you and your authentic self, they kind of want to know what you have to think or say about certain topics. And although there's been a lot of controversy at times around the personal creeping into LinkedIn from a business perspective, I think if you can keep that to a relative small percentage, I think it's also important that people get to know you and who and what you are about. And sometimes you have to open those doors to an element of, you know, personal for them to see or feel that. So thank you all for sharing, because you've all gone through different journeys, but in a really, really good place. So for the audience, I think we're quite keen to jump into maybe some tactical advice and the approaches that you take when you're thinking about, your brand and, if, for example, you are going to be posting out there, whether it's a conference that you've got in a month's time, or whether it's just a bit of market intelligence that you're keen to share, or something that's happened that week that you think is absolutely diabolical, and actually this really needs to change in our industry. What's kind of in your mind when you're putting together like a post? What's your kind of general rules of engagement or approach? So 𝐲𝐬𝐿, I'll come to you with this question because it's quite a big one as well. So maybe we can tap around as a team.
I mean, basically, there are a couple of, there is a thought process that is ongoing, right? I mean, before I post something, first of all, I post very intuitively. So, I mean, there are people that have a strategy, they have a plan, they plan everything, and they know what is going to be posted on a Monday to Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week, etc., etc. I don't do that. I never did that. I did try several things. What topics I feel connected more, the topics that I can bring a value, and also topics where I can contribute to it and have an impact on the society, on whatever the topic is. But when I do a post, I usually combine it with a picture, right? Because I know people want to see you because they trust you. You are a trustful brand, right? And this is something that also, I think, if there are any people in the audience who haven't started doing branding, personal branding, I think the first thing that they should think about is, okay, if I wasn't me, if I was someone else or a product or brand, would I trust that person or that brand, right?
Yeah.
So because the trust is the core of every relationship. And when you do a post on LinkedIn or any of social media, you establish a relationship, you build a bridge. And that bridge has to be very solid, very, based on the trust and impact, the impact you want to generate. So when I post, for example, something on LinkedIn, I just think about the impact that I want to generate and how much trust I want to create with that post. So I'd rather keep it short with a nice picture, sometimes myself with a topic, sometimes people that I'm surrounded with, and I tag them to give the credit to them. This could be a conference, like for example, last week I was at the Intelligence Health, and a lot of people came to me and said, "Oh, I know you from LinkedIn. Can we take a picture? Oh, I wanted to talk to you about this topic, that topic." Okay, and it's like, okay, let's take a picture. So I don't have to go to people anymore to ask, okay, can we take a picture? They come to me and say, we can take a picture. Can we take a picture together? Because I know you're posting them on LinkedIn and you can post it. You're allowed to post it.
But that's part of your brand that you're building. Like, you've got to the point now where, because that's what you're distributing, you're now known as somebody that does share that type of content. So now people are coming up to you rather than you having to ask for the photo. That people, so that's brilliant. That shows, and that's a level of consistency. So maybe the term of consistency comes into this a little bit. I know that the thought process and things that I've heard before is, you see the odd person that has a viral post once every quarter, and you kind of think, well, that's brilliant. But if you're trying to build a network, build relationships and a brand, actually, half of that engagement, but on a regular basis, will help actually build that brand as opposed to infrequently. So there's a level of consistency, I think, that comes into play as well.
I think personal branding, it builds your credibility, doesn't it? It gives people social proof that you know what you're talking about. You are, don't want to use the word expert, but you're knowledgeable about your topics of choice that you're speaking about. So when it comes to being in person. And this is another thing that Dana was saying earlier, is like matching up your personal brand online to offline. Like I've had comments, people saying, wow, you really are what you're like online, and you need to have that authenticity across. You can't be something online, something offline. So building that in and being like, this is me, I'm showing up and being authentic is just so important. And then it brings inbound leads, inbound conversations, which is a byproduct of the personal brand.
Yeah. Do you have a bit of a flow, Sandrina? Do you use things like polls? Do you have a particular, do you schedule your posts? Because there's so many different tips that you can do in regards to that. Is there a theme that's worked well for you, perhaps?
Yeah, so I do mix up, I guess, my content type. So I use images, videos, text only posts, and polls. So I do use a variety of those, and that works really well for me. I think my audience likes the mixture because they interact with different things. But my writing style stays consistent throughout them all. So I always try and have either a personal story or at least a personal anecdote or a twist on that. Some of my personality shines through, as well as the message I'm trying to convey in that post. I schedule the large majority of my content just because busy life, that makes it a lot easier. And also it's better to balance with, what's going on with at work. But what I do tend to do is I try and schedule my posts at a time where I can engage with my audience in the comments. So I personally try and do it either, say, just before I started work when I've kind of done the school run, or I do it at lunchtime, or I might do it kind of after work to catch, depending on when it may be, for example, and then I can engage in the comments at that time, which also then helps your post, I found, go further, because you're showing LinkedIn that you're invested in the conversation. You're not just posting and ghosting, essentially.
Yeah. And actually that what you've just said then, for those that are maybe new to personal branding in the audience, even just the gradual steps into, producing posts, actually you just starting to connect on a regular basis with more people within your network and comment on their newsfeed and comment within their posts is actually quite a nice gradual way of building up a bit of momentum to then post yourself. And that scheduling piece is an important piece, because I know that I speak to a lot of individuals that, just struggle with the balance of trying to fit maybe that in along with work. So that's an interesting tip. Dana, from your perspective, you're building up your brand and you're sort of now starting to really get known for, I'd say, your imageries, your content. Do you have a particular style of writing? So when you're writing something that you're familiar with how you're trying to engage with your audience, or is it conversational? Is it in-depth? Do you have a particular style that works?
I try to keep it brief. We're all in hurry, and we all have our lives. And I've had some colleagues reach out to me and they say, "Well, how do you do your posts? I'm sitting on this one for 2 hours and it just doesn't sound right. And I'm overthinking it and I'm rewriting. Can you please take a look at it?" And I said, nobody's sitting on LinkedIn waiting for your post. People have busy lives. The chances are they're not even going to stop. They're going to keep scrolling by. So why are you obsessing on getting every single comma right? Just get it out. Start somewhere. If your idea is there, don't write maybe an A4 page full of text. People won't have time to read it. But, if you have an idea, if you have a message, you want to get it out there, just get it out there. You need to start somewhere. You cannot spend half a day. And this is exactly why people don't get out there, because nobody has that much time to write every post. Of course, you need to be careful. And of course, you need to think, to get it right. But don't overthink it. And my branding is, I write it very simply. Because my network is global. So most of people's native language is not English, neither it's mine. And there will be some small mistakes here and there. I'm not obsessing over it, to be honest. We're all human. People connect with people. People want to see real people. They don't want to see PR releases, and they don't, and if they want to see official company statements, they can go on company websites and company pages. This is me. I write it simply. I write it as it is. Some people find it possibly a little too direct. That's just who I am.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you've got to stay true to who you are. And I actually find it really engaging. And I think that I'm probably with you, similar mindset around the fact that most of us don't have a huge amount of time. Sometimes if I see an essay in a post, I actually just don't have I read half of it and then I'm like, I'm gone. So yeah, I think it's what's the message you're trying to convey. The overthinking element is I mean, I don't know what the statistics are out there, but I would say it's 80% of the challenges in which people face, like they get that content block, don't they? And they want to be personal branding. They want to push out and network, but they kind of just have this block around, well, what do I actually write about? And actually sometimes it's so simple, and it could just be noting down in a post-it note in your mobile, on your phone, messaging yourself around any conversation that you've had throughout the week that inspires you, or that you think, you know, because we're having conversations on the daily, and there is always something from those conversations that you could easily take and deliver. So I think the overthinking element is actually a really important one, Dana, but maybe that comes with a bit of confidence, and then it's...
And diversifying as well. We already said, you know, different formats, different areas of your life. Try to make it engaging so that people can relate to it. So, you know, you already said, Sandrina, your own stories, your own experiences. People know theory. We all know what we have to do. People want to know, okay, but how did you do it? What happened? What did you learn from it? What did you do wrong? You know, so stories, people want to hear stories, and people want to hear how other people made it happen. And, and that's really...
And I think we are not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We are, in the end, human beings. We make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, and it's completely, absolutely okay to share also our vulnerability, right? To say, hey, this is what I have experienced. This is how I felt. This is what I did, and this was my learning. What else, you know? I mean, or this is what I tried. What else can I try? What do you think? You know, how would you have done it? Or is there a different way? I mean, we all share our stories, and our stories are not always, hey, well done, I'm the superhero. No, because I mean, you need to connect with people on an emotional level, right? So because I'm not a marketing expert, but we all know that when we purchase something, we purchase it because we feel emotionally connected to it.
Yes.
So the same with people. When we connect with people, we connect easily with people where we feel we are emotionally connected. So therefore, I think it's absolutely okay to share your story saying, hey, this has happened to me, and I don't know how to solve it. Who can help me? And that could be also part of your personal brand.
Yeah, and I think so much of this is about you as an individual growing, I feel, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome. There is a lot of vulnerability, almost like breakthrough. You're worried about maybe somebody or a group of people that you're connected with that you worked with 5 years ago. What are they going to think? Or, you know, you work for an organization, and, you know, how's that going to be perceived in my working hours, me posting? And there's so many little things that can kind of creep in. But you're absolutely right, 𝐬𝐿𝐵, just with the hook. There was Catherine here. Thank you for commenting on this. You need a good hook to start with. And if there's one thing that I haven't, you know, mastered by any means, but something I'm aware of when I'm posting is that almost that opening caption or opening line, it has to be some kind of like emotional, like you said, 𝐬𝐿𝐵, it's got to connect with people emotionally.
Relatable.
Yeah, that's either relatable, it's an experience they've had before. I completely agree. So thank you for sharing that, Catherine. We've got some I'm so sorry, we've got so many comments coming through. I've not been able to dive back into a lot of them, but we've got some great people being very inspired as well. Great point. Right as you speak, I think Andrew's dialed in. But yes, we've got lots of great comments coming through. What's this one say? Like a good subject line for an email. Yes, I'm definitely there on that one, actually. So as because I'm just conscious of the time, before we dive out of the, we're diving out of the approach, obviously what we can sometimes be aware of, and this is something that just trying to put people at minds at ease, because I am very aware that the personal branding journey, either if you're new to it or you're still in the establishment kind of mode, is that there can be some common challenges that individuals face. And it's just, what are some of the tips or advice around overcoming them? So, for example, we do know and see that, there are sometimes quite a bit of negative comments that can happen in regards to that. What's your approach to that? Do you tend to respond? Do you leave it? Do you what's your general rule of thumb with that? Sandrina, I'll come to you first from a marketing point of view.
Yeah, I think I haven't had too many negative comments. I have had people who have had difference of opinions on my post, which I actually really do welcome, because as long as someone's not being horrible to you as an individual, people are entitled to have different opinions. I do think with personal branding, even though we are talking about ourselves and personal stories, it's idea promotion, not self-promotion. The self-promotion is like a byproduct of us talking about those ideas, kind of what you were saying earlier, Dana. But I think with that, with the comments and how people perceive things, it's good to, again, engage in that conversation with people. You can then expand on your post, like why you have those thoughts as opposed to theirs. Maybe there's a common ground in there somewhere, maybe there isn't, but that's also okay as well. And I think going back to, again, what you were saying a minute ago, Louise, fear is one of those biggest emotions to why people don't want to post and start, or they're too scared about others' opinions. But there's a quote that I absolutely love, and it's just a general quote, and it's, you could be the juiciest peach in the world, but there'll be someone who doesn't like peaches. You're not going to please everyone, okay? But you have got wisdom wherever you are in your career. Like, go out and share what you've got with the world. Like, you are going to give value to somebody. If you want to post content, then do it. Don't let other people hold you back.
Yeah, lovely, great bit of advice there. And is there anything to add to that, Dana?
Yeah, I think I've heard quite a lot of people asking me, if they should do it and how they should start doing building their personal brand. And what I say to many of them is they say, oh, but if I spend too much time on LinkedIn, and if I spend too much time volunteering into company-wide events or outside organizations, people are going to think I'm looking for a new job. This is a common misconception that is still out there. And actually, I can assure you that we are very steadily moving away from this old-fashioned perception. It's not there anymore. These days, employers and most team leads appreciate this, because you're not only building your personal brand, you're also building your company brand. You're building your product brand. You are just that much more than you. And statistics show that people's brand is being much more targeted and much more better perceived than company brands. So the company can have the most elaborate agencies preparing their content, their visuals, their marketing campaigns. And I'm sure, Sandrine, you have a lot more insights into this. But it's really people who want to hear from people. And so your personal brand actually is a lot more than that. So whenever you're challenged on this, say, well, actually, I am such a fan of this organization. I'm such a fan of our product that I want more people to know about it. And I may not talk about it because nobody wants to hear you promoting the product, but I know for a fact myself that I've read from people and I thought, wow, this person, I want to know who they work for, who hires such a talent, with so much experience and such a thought leadership. Where are these people? And that immediately, in my eyes, builds the company brand.
Oh, 100% agree. I think since,
So I
especially since,
definitely.
yeah, and especially since COVID, you know, I think since the pandemic, more remote working, more virtual relationships, virtual networking being more paramount than ever. You know, we've seen people's personal brands really lift post that period, and is continuing to. And more and more, even in the talent ecosystem that we are in, you know, when people go to look for other opportunities, they're not just looking at the companies that they're going to be potentially future working for, or the portfolios or their financial investments. They're actually looking at the hiring manager. They're actually looking at the team, you know, and sometimes people people make decisions based on who their future hiring manager is more than the business themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people establishing their own brand and getting themselves out there, being authentic, showing them, I completely and utterly agree with you there. Sorry, Donna, I went off on that one, but yeah,
No worries.
it's a definite shift in the market in regards to that. There's a question here that's come through just from Elizabeth. What's the difference in approach in branding when you are open to work as a job seeker? We are always advised to post to build network. I mean, I've got some thoughts on this, but I might dive to 𝐲𝐬𝐿 first with you with this question. What's your thoughts? Spot there, sorry.
When you're open. So I'm not really 100% sure if I understand it correctly.
Yeah.
Does Elizabeth wants to understand what she can do when she's a job seeker?
Yeah, so maybe should her
maybe.
outreach or approach to personal branding be any different if she's open to work? I mean, my general thought process is that if you're finding what your narrative, your story, what you're passionate about, regardless of whether you're looking for a job or not, you should still be able to personal brand. You should still be able to, you know, discuss the hot topics that are out there within your industry niche. You know, that was my thought process, is that it shouldn't change your narrative too much. What's your thoughts there?
No, I mean, I don't know what she's specialized in. So she can, for example, start with sharing, as you say, her experience, expertise, the area of expertise, right? She can become a well-known expert in her area. It doesn't need to be, her personal story necessarily, but her experience, the knowledge, the expertise she brings, the added value that she can bring to a company. And she doesn't need to necessarily say, hey, I'm here looking for a job, but what impact she can generate when she joins a company, or what achievements she had, and sharing those achievements and how these achievements have led to an impact for the company, for the environment, or to the society. And she can also use all of those when she goes and meets with people during conferences and events. I think when it comes to especially the job seekers, you need to have an elevator pitch ready. And you need to have your LinkedIn profile in a very good shape, right? Yes, I mean, Dana knows that as well. Yeah. So you need to have a 1 minute, 3 minute elevator pitch ready to share with the people that you're connecting, who you are. Not necessarily what you're looking for, but the impact, the added value you would bring. And also the LinkedIn profile has to be very clean, right to the point, with a nice banner, with a nice title, or many areas where you're an expert in. And the about section you mentioned earlier has to be really sharp, crystal clear. And with that already, I think you show your brand, who you are.
Yeah, absolutely true. Because beyond the actual posting, you've got to remember when people are coming back and networking with you, Elizabeth, it's about your shop window and what is it that people are seeing. And if you're telling that story about you on that LinkedIn profile, and as 𝐲𝐬𝐿 said, you know, you can change your URL, you can change and extend your title in the top section to include all of your areas of expertise. So when people are searching, you'd come up. So there's lots of things that you can do in and around that. So hopefully that helps. I'm very conscious that we're almost running out of time, and I feel like we could keep going actually. So I will come to you with the last final question, which I think is a very similar question that we ask on all of our broadcasts. But what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to make a lasting impact with their personal brand? Usually it's one piece of advice to your younger self, but we'll keep on topic. So, Sandrina, I'll come to you with this question. If there was a kind of one bit of advice that you would give.
I did write one down in advance of this question, but I almost have like one. I have two because something else that was said earlier, and I was like, it's so important for people to recognize when building a personal brand, and again, when thinking about businesses and how it ties back. B2B is just human to human, and if you remember that at the core of everything you do, you can't go far wrong. So I think that's really important. But the piece of advice that I had written down was, build a personal brand with no expectations of anybody else. And do the outcome because you're passionate, and everything else will follow. If you do it with passion, you cannot go wrong.
Yeah, love that. It's not a process. It's got to mean something. Yeah. I agree. Love that. And Dana, I'll come to you with the same question.
Yeah, I mean, really, really trivial, but people remember how you make them feel.
Yes. Yeah.
This is all about that, and nobody cares who you are and what's your brand, but they will remember how you made them feel. And this is something that me, as somebody who interviews candidates on daily basis, I make sure that I go out of my way and people feel heard, understood, that I really care, that there is the right match. And it's the same about anything.
Yeah,
that is going to be the one impact I'm going to make. If somebody remembers me because they felt something, that's it.
Yeah, the way they make you feel. I love that. Thank you. That's a great one. And 𝐬𝐿𝐻, what's your?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot agree more with Sandrina and Dana. I think my advice would be really, first of all, get to know you, who you are, like your strengths, skills, your triggering points, and your purpose, your values, as also Dana mentioned, right? Because this is like a puzzle. You're a picture made of so many different pieces of puzzles, right? The better you know yourself, the easier it's going to be to build your own brand. And then once you have your brand, start even earlier, start giving, give, help people, support people. Without expecting anything, without saying, oh, I give you now this, you in return, I expect you. No, just give. It will come back. It will come back one day, and it will come back tremendously, So therefore, give first before you ask for something.
Yeah, love that. Brilliant. 3 great bits of advice. And I'm really hoping, as an audience listening, we've covered off quite a lot of tips there, from blend of content to different styles of writing, to using polls, using imagery, scheduling your posts, finding out what times of the day just tends to work best for you and your audience. Consistency probably plays a big part. Don't get caught up in vanity metrics or numbers. You might have had a post that went absolutely viral last month, but if you've not done any form of branding for 4 weeks, that's not helping taking your story and narrative to your network and building those relationships on a consistent basis. So I think we've covered an awful lot. We've gone a little bit over in time, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have the 3 of you join me today. So thank you so much. Next month, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we've got a breast cancer special for Lift Up live broadcast next month. But thank you so much for all of those that have joined. Thank you for your question, Elizabeth. It was a great question. And until next time, thank you all for joining us, and take care and goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening. Bye.